Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to MOJ Economics YouTube channel. So far, so good. We've treated, I think, about maybe 2 to 3 to 4 topics on this course that we are talking about, which is research writing. So today we shall begin our discussion on each chapters. So today we'll be talking about chapter 1. So what does chapter 1 entail? By now, I told you, or I must have told you that this is a practical course. So by now, I believe each and every one of you saying this, as long as you belong to the school, must have a project topic as at this particular period. So as you are being taught how to go, as you are being exposed to what each chapter entails with examples and maybe sharing of documents on the WhatsApp platform, you are encouraged to start to develop your own mini project as well, based on your topic. And the topic must have been approved, right? So you must have tendered the topic before now and we must have gone through it and approved it for you, and you just continue. So what does chapter 1 entail? What does it entail? First, chapter 1 is a section that introduces us to what your project is about, and kind of a little defense for the topic you've chosen. And what do I mean? So chapter 1 has the introduction, then chapter 1 also has statement of the problem. It also includes objective of the study, which is called, which could be called aims of the study. Okay, and you have research questions, you have significance of the study, scope of the study, and definition of terms. For this definition of terms, anyway, like I mentioned at the beginning of this course, whatever it is that I teach you is like the bane of what you really have to talk about in your project. The arrangement may not be the same with how projects have been arranged in your department, in your various institutions, but then whatever it is likely going to be kind of 80% similar to whatever you are taught here, right? So for this definition of terms, some universities or some departments may have this come under conceptual review, and that's under literature review chapter 3. Okay, and it may not really be like this as well. For example, these research questions, some supervisors may not really care about the research questions, while some may care about them. Well, it is just great for you to know what these things are, just in case. And one other thing is that there are some things that I may talk about here that your supervisor may not make rule out of your project, and there are some things that I may not talk about here that your supervisors are going to add in your project, right? But all in all, you are good. Okay, they are good. There are different styles for different departments, and even in the same department, different supervisors have their own unique styles as well. So it is what it is. Just make sure that you are in close contact with your supervisor, regardless of whatever it is that you're doing. So let's begin with introduction. So introduction, this is the part that exposes us to what your project is about. It's kind of a summary. So you are beginning to tell us, okay, what do you want to write about? What is your research about, right? So when you are talking about now, I'm going to be using a topic as an example, okay, to illustrate whatever point that I mentioned in this class. And in fact, I think along the line, I started to become interested in this particular topic, inflation and economic growth in Nigeria. We've been using this example for a while now, and I don't know, maybe I will eventually have a project on inflation or have a research on inflation and economic growth in Nigeria, along the line as well. Okay, I don't know. Okay, but now I'm going to be using this to illustrate my point so that you would understand what I'm trying to say. So you have 1.0 introduction. All of these things, they have their, there's a way you number them in your project. This is going to be 1.0, this is 1.1, this is objective is 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, 1.5, 1.6. So you're using 1 point because it's chapter 1, right? So other subheadings are the ones that have the point in front of them. So if you are talking about something under a particular subheading, let's say under statement of the problem, let's talk about something else. So statement of the problem is 1.1. So you are talking about something else under statement of the problem that is going to require another heading. So that would be 1.11. Okay, so that's how you continue, and when you enter chapter 2 and so on and so forth. So 1.0 in the introductory aspect. Now I I've highlighted some of the qualities that your introduction must have. Number one, it must be straightforward. It must be straightforward, so no beating about the bush. What we are interested in is the quality of your writing, not necessarily the quantity of your writing, except you are maybe preparing for your dissertation, or maybe you are writing your dissertation and you have to write pages upon pages, okay, of your introduction. But for basic final year project, your MSc project, all right, your introduction should be straightforward, right? Then number two, it should be brief. Now, when I'm saying brief, what I call brief, okay, and this varies. I'm not your supervisor anyway. I'm not even a lecturer, so you have to be careful. I'm just one guy on YouTube that wants your life to be a little bit easier, kind of. So when I say brief, I mean 4 to 6 quality paragraphs. So that's my own definition of brief, as long as the introduction is concerned. Okay, 4 to 6 quality paragraphs. I'm not saying 3. And if you don't understand in terms of paragraph, I mean something about 1 page or 1.5 pages. Okay, now when you start typing all of those stuff on your MS Word and whatever app it is you are using, it's like 1 to 1.5 pages. So you should be done with your introduction. Now, what other quality must your introduction have? There must be a flow, right? So you're starting from this to this point to this point to this point. So I think I gave an example in one of our earlier classes about you wanting to eat. So first thing, you cook your meal, okay, which is what you do in the kitchen or whatever it is, wherever it is that you are doing your cooking at. Then you dish it, you serve it on the table, or maybe you eat it while standing. It's your choice. After that, you begin to eat. Okay, so when you're writing, you went to gather the materials that you are going to use to cook. From there, you took those materials to the kitchen, you cooked your meal, from there you dished it and you began to eat. So that's a flow. So it's not like, okay, I began to eat, oh yes, and I remember, yes, I bought the food items, then I cooked them and I served them. So I began to eat, I bought the food items. So you are like, you are putting is it cat before the horse now, or horse before the cat? I think you already know that, right? English can be very difficult. Okay, so there must be a flow, right? So these are qualities that I think your introduction should have. Okay, so inflation and economic growth. Now, if you are talking about this topic, which is the example that I've chosen, and I want to write an introduction on this. So what is expected of me? So one thing is, I was careful enough not to read journals on inflation and economic growth in Nigeria, so that I won't be kind of biased. Okay, not because I've read something from journals, so I'm not like talking. So I'm just like gonna be using a free mind. So I wrote some things down, as I was developing, the notes for this particular class. All right. So first thing is, you're talking about Nigeria, okay? So you should be able to talk about something about Nigeria's geography, just a brief introduction to Nigeria. Okay, Nigeria's economy, is it a developing economy? Is it developed? So on and so forth. So you must talk about growth, Nigeria's growth. Just talk about it briefly. The sources of Nigeria's growth. All right, and you must also talk about inflation. Okay, how has inflation been in the country? So what has been the effect of inflation? So you have to be kind of brief with these things. I said your introduction should be between 1 to 1.5 pages, and that's for me, right? So it still depends on your supervisor and what you have in mind to also write. Just make sure that it's not too lengthy. It's introduction, for God's sake. Okay. Then you might also talk about maybe 1 or 2 policies, relevant policies or important policies that Nigeria's government has put in place to checkmate inflation, along the line. All right. So you might also have other interesting things in mind to talk about, and then the journals that you must have read before this particular period. This is one of the reasons why I tell you guys to go through journals, okay, in developing your topic. So you must have gone through journals. So the journals are going to be like a guide for you. So your writing is going to have direction. Okay. So the journals that you must have read will then give you an idea of what to include in your introduction as well. Not that all of what you'll be needing is going to be in those journals. No, one thing about education is that you have to be able to express yourself. You have to be able to add to whatever it is that you see from other places. You have to be able to demonstrate that, okay, I've gone through this department and there is something I have in me that I can contribute to knowledge, to the body of knowledge. Okay. So you go to the journals. Okay, you saw one or two things that you can add in introduction. You can take them, reference them. In our previous I talked about referencing and plagiarism. So you reference them, the authors, the researchers, and what have you. Okay, so there was something I wanted to mention about introduction as well. Okay, how do you know what to add in the introductory aspect of your project as you are going through your journals? I think I've described a journal before that it has the journal type or maybe the journal name. Okay, Journal of Economic Development if there's something like that, or maybe Journal of Social Engineering if there's something like that. Okay, then you have the title of you have the name of or the topic of the journal. All right, you have the name of the authors. You have the abstract. After the abstract, then what else do you have? I think keywords. Okay, I'm gonna say keywords. Before this particular period, I must have sent you examples of journals. So if I've not sent those documents, if I've not sent you a journal before and you've not seen a journal before, please just try to remind me to send you a copy, not on YouTube obviously. Okay, and from there you have introduction before you have theoretical framework or whatever it is. So just go to the introductory aspects of the journals that you must have reviewed, and just maybe combine 2, 3, 4, 5 relevant journals, everybody literature together and read their introduction. In as much as they are talking about the same topic or related topics, you will realize that the introduction are going to be similar in nature, kind of. So you may have a particular, citation that is common to all of those journals. I think there was one work I was writing one time, and Hanrise 2000. Yes, Hanrise 2000 was kind of common. Every other journal I was reading was just taking me back to Hanrise 2000. Not that that was the only, journal that was being referenced by the remaining journals, but there was just something particular about Hanrise 2000. So you're gonna see other citations, but you will definitely see Hanrise 2000 in one way or the other. So I'm just trying to tell you that in all of those journals, they should be similar. All right, they will talk about other things that are different based on what each researcher is really concerned about. When we're talking about selecting a topic, and I use inflation and economic growth as an example. I think I mentioned that 5 students may submit this topic for their supervisors and have it, or maybe 5 students of the same supervisor may submit this topic, and the supervisor is going to approve the 5 of them. Now, not meaning that they are going to talk about the same thing, no, but in their in their argument for the approval of their topics, they must have said something particular about the topic that they want to address. So in as much as those peculiarities vary among the 5 students, the supervisor may as well approve this topic to all the 5 students. Okay, so it is what it is. Just know what you are doing. All right, so I'm gonna read some that I just wrote out briefly on introduction. So I'm going to explain them. All right, so let's start. Nigeria is a country of about 200 million people. So am I going to continue? No, I mentioned that in the last class. I'm already making an assertion, and I did not conduct a population census. I did not count people, so I'm not supposed to go like that. All right, so what I'm just going to do is I have to cite a credible source, a source that has also mentioned that Nigeria has about 200 million people. So I may as well just say Nigeria is a country of about 200 million people. Then as a reference, World Bank 2021. Okay, then I continue. Our National Bureau of Statistics 2021, 2020. Okay, and I continue. All right, so from there, Nigeria is a country of about 200 million people. Reference, like the citation, from different cultures, languages, and ethnicities, be it major or minor. Now, the country boasts as the giant of Africa in terms of economic might. Okay, so that one too, I'm already trying to make an assumption. So I have to include my citations. So what are the sources that mention that Nigeria is the giant of Africa economically? Okay. All right. This is not far-fetched since the country is immensely blessed with valuable natural resources such as crude oil, coal, limestone, and so on, in addition to its growing human capital resource. Human capital or human resource. Okay, so here I've already included in that opening paragraph, I've already mentioned something about the people in Nigeria, the number of people in Nigeria. Okay, I've mentioned something regarding their kind of person, like when I was talking about their ethnicities. Okay, and I've mentioned economic growth, kind of I've mentioned economic growth, and I've mentioned sources of economic growth, that is things that could make an economy to grow. Okay, so that was why I said this is not far-fetched, since the country is immensely blessed with valuable natural resources, okay, such as crude oil, coal, limestone, and so on. In addition to its growing human capital or growing human resource. So I may also become bold and, I mean, include good governance, right, being a source of economic growth in Nigeria. But if you know about Nigeria, you are, you know, already kind of rolling your eyes over there that no. So Nigeria hasn't really experienced good governance, okay, and so that makes it, that makes kind of wrong, or hypocritical to include good governance as part of a source of Nigeria's economic growth. Under normal circumstances, when you have good governance in a nation, in a country, that's going to reflect in the kind of policies that are being made and implemented and how they foster economic growth. That should have been the norm. But in Nigeria, that is not the norm. So I can't include good governance as a source of economic growth. Okay, so I'm done with that aspect. Now I then move to another part. Okay, not necessarily in the same, not, how do I put it? You realize that there is a flow, kind of, right? So now let me continue. While Nigeria is blessed, I already spoke about source of economic growth, right? So I'm continuing. While Nigeria is blessed with natural and human resources to foster its economic growth as a country, studies such as 2012, right? I've taught you guys about referencing the studies such as 2012. I just try to include the names of some of our students in whatever we do to make our classes, our schooling, whatever interactive. So this is actually Bukola. So one of our students is Bukola. So I'm kind of using her surname. Alright. So studies such as 2012 and Oladipupo et al. I think you have Oladipupo Gbenga. So Oladipupo et al. And et al. I believe you already know what that means. So that means there must have been at least 3 authors of that particular study. 2018. So 2012 and Oladipupo et al. 2018 reviewed that inflation may frustrate economic growth translation into improved standard of living of the average citizens by eroding their real purchasing power. So if you look at it, I've already mentioned something about Nigeria. I've mentioned stories of its economic growth. I'm not kind of relating, so I'm going back to the topic, which is inflation and economic growth in Nigeria. So I'm going back to saying, while Nigeria is blessed with all of these things, inflation has been a problem. It has not allowed the growth of the Nigerian economy to translate into, improved living standards, for the average Nigerian citizen. And I've been able to, cite, 2 studies, right? So that is how you're gonna be writing your stuff. So you must be able to cite different relevant journals, different relevant secondary, sources to demonstrate that you've studied right. So that's also another thing about, research. That's one thing that your supervisors want to see is how wide you've read. So it's not like you reading 2, 3, 4 journals and then based on those journals you begin to write. So you're just referencing only 4 papers. So that might mean that your work is not broad enough, your work is not vast enough. So your supervisors want to see that, they want to see the demonstration of you reading, you reading a lot of, quite a significant number, of journals, of, other secondary sources to back up your writing. So we continue. Studies such as 2012 and Oladipupo et al. 2018 revealed that inflation may frustrate economic growth translation into improved standard of living of the average Nigerian citizen by eroding their real purchasing power. So I'm done. So from there, I move to talk about something else. So I want to talk about policies. I've mentioned that inflation can be a problem. I want to talk about policies. Your work is not supposed to be like this necessarily. Like I said, this is an example. So you mentioned some things about policies. to talk about some past policies that have been used to curb, or foster inflation. It depends on what you are writing about. Inflation here is generally viewed as a negative thing. So you talk about policies that have been implemented to curb inflation. If you're talking about something good, that have been policies to foster that particular phenomenon. So that then move to can say the federal government of Nigeria, in 2016, according to Oyedokun 2013, according to Oyedokun 2017, okay, implemented social policy, okay, to curb inflation. Also in social year in 2018, all right, the central bank also increased maybe the monetary policy rates, as a measure to curb inflation in Nigerian economy. Okay, where you got that from, you also have to cite it, and so on and so forth. Now, something about this aspect is that this is introduction. You don't have to explain those policies. Okay, so just mention them, say one or two small things about them. You don't have to start to elaborate. This is introduction. There is a point, there's a place in your project where you are going to elaborate, and that is in your chapter 2 when you are doing background of the study. But here, just kind of mention one or two important things. So from there, for me, I just jump into the conclusion, right? So in conclusion, it is clear that inflation can be detrimental to the growth of an economy, and regardless of the Nigerian government's fiscal and monetary measures in fighting it, there has been little to show for their efforts. Okay, and with that, I'm done with my introduction. Now, my introduction is kind of brief. If you try to develop this, you may not have maybe more than 4 paragraphs. Okay, but let's say 5 paragraphs, and it may be okay. All right, so this is just an example of what I've been trying to say, and if you look at it very well, there seems to be a flow, right? Talk about Nigeria as a country, so you might elaborate on that more than what I have done. Talk about Nigeria as a country. Talk about how has the economy been growing. Okay, what are the factors that have been fueling the growth of the economy. So that was like my first paragraph. Then second paragraph, I moved into why Nigeria's economic growth, why Nigeria's economic growth hasn't been able to translate into improved living standards of the people, and I've been able to bring inflation as one of the factors, or as a factor that has not allowed that to happen. And I cited one or two sources, so I could have cited more. All right. From there, I also moved into there is a problem. Inflation is affecting Nigeria's economic growth. So far, Nigeria as a country has tried to do some things about our inflationary problems. So, and that was when I mentioned policies and whatever. And from there, I now moved to another paragraph to say that Nigerian governments, in spite of those policies, have not been able to. You understand? So they flow like that, and they're done. Good. All right, clap for me. Thank you very much. And from there, I move to problem statements or statement of the problem. It depends on whatever you choose, and it depends on your supervisor's accent as well. You are talking about a problem, and so you must write out that problem in a way that your reader is going to care about it. That's one. Then you must also write the problem in a way that it creates a sense of urgency towards solving it. Now it's a problem you are talking about, right? So it must be in a way that people get kind of concerned about it, and there is a desire to change the course of things. All right. So I've written some things about problem statement that you have to take note of. Number one, it is not a sentence. So because you have problem statement, so you might just think one line, just state your problem in one line or two lines. No, it's not like that. It's a kind of essay on its own, and it depends on your level. Okay, so it depends on your level. So if you're an undergraduate student, okay, maybe half a page, okay, maybe a page. Now if you were an MSc student, maybe more than that. All right, so whatever it is, just be able to demonstrate that you are writing about a problem, about something that really has to change. Whoever is able to read your problem statement should know that there's something that really has to be done about this thing. I have to tell you something, that when your supervisor takes hold of your chapter 1, he or she is likely going to go to your problem statement. Okay, not even introduction, like your problem statement first, and then see what problem is existing, what problem are you trying to solve, and that's what I mentioned here. What is the current situation? So you're talking about what's the situation of something. All right, what problem is existing, And what do you want to do about it? Okay, how significant is that problem? Does it really affect a lot of people? Okay, is it a deep problem, a problem that even if people are not really aware about it, it has grave consequences? And let's say it does not even have grave consequences that are not that deep, but they could become grave. Does it affect a significant number of people? All of those things. So you must write a problem like a problem. So if you say I have a problem, okay, I just come to an I'm like, I've got a problem. So you don't expect me to be dancing about and be telling that I've got a problem. You're not going to take me seriously, right? So I come to you, I'm sober and I'm just down, I'm just sitting somewhere. I didn't even tell you anything, but you know that okay, this is not the usual um, you know, this person is not in his or usual self, that there must be a problem. So you must write your problem statement in a way that creates a sense of urgency. Okay, in a way that people are really going to feel concerned about it. Okay, so number it's not a sentence, it's relatively short. Like I said, it depends on your level. Okay, maybe you're an undergraduate student, you're an MSc student, you're a PhD student, so it depends. Another one, make your readers care. All right, make your readers care about the problem you're talking about. Make them care. Number 4, it must have a sense of urgency. Okay, this is a problem and it must change. Something must happen. All right, something positively must happen. Now it must be related to the subject matter. So don't just talk. And I have another example here that I'm going to read out and explain, okay, for you to understand what I mean. It must be related to the subject matter. So don't just say, okay, the effect of this is this, the effect of this is this, and it doesn't have any relationship. Now what's the current situation? Okay, you're talking about a problem. Okay, there's something on ground already. All right, what is wrong with it? All right, you must be able, in your writing must be able to demonstrate that there's something wrong with the situation of things, and that is why you are trying to address it. That's why you're trying to change it. Okay, then how significant is the problem? How deep does it affect people? How many people does it affect, or how many people can it affect? Okay, so those are things that you must mention in your problem statement. So now for this topic, inflation and economic growth in Nigeria, I think I wrote a problem statement and I'm gonna read it. So first thing I want to talk about the situation of things. If you are in Nigeria right now, this is 2022. If you're in Nigeria right now, according to National Bureau of Statistics, Nigeria's inflation rate is around 17. It's not even around. It's 17.71%. Imagine 17.71%. And some people may even go into the market and tell that figure is not right because of the way the prices of things have been doubling, tripling in a short while. Okay, and these things are happening like on a weekly basis. So the price of something last week is not like the price this week, and some it's looking like their prices are even changing on a daily basis or less than a weekly basis. So things right now are not really cool. And then I must be able to talk about the high period. So I'm talking about other periods in Nigeria where inflation has been really high. So inflation right now is high, 17.7%. I don't know if Nigeria has had a higher figure than that. So, but I should be able to mention, because it's a problem, I should be able to mention other period of high inflation in Nigeria. All right, other maybe it was similar like that in 2015, it was like that in 2014. Okay, and it was like that in 2012. Not the same value, but relatively high values as well. Now I must be able to talk about the low price of inflation as well. But because what I'm trying to look at here is the problems that inflation is causing in the Nigerian economy, so I'm going to pay more attention to those periods of high inflation in the country. Do you understand? So that's how that goes. So I've kind of spoken about the situation of things, how inflation is happening. This is 2022. Nigeria's economy is almost in shambles right now as I'm recording this video. I don't know when you're gonna be seeing it. So from there, okay, I move. Okay, and I'm not talking about the effect of inflation, like the problems that inflation is causing in Nigeria. So it has led to high living cost, high cost of living for people. Then